David Corenswet remembers the first time that he flew as Superman, and he says it was underwhelming. "It was really just a test. We did some wire work just to test our aptitude there, see how we felt up in the air," he says. The first time he flew in his full hero costume was the scene in which Superman rockets upward into the sky after he yells,
"Hey buddy, eyes up here,"
at a kaiju attacking Metropolis. To achieve the stunt, the production team built a facade of a building that they then burnt with flamethrowers as a practical stunt. He was then brought in and did the piece where he's flying in front of the building, and the two shots were joined together in post-production. Writer-director James Gunn, who is also the co-head of DC Studios with Peter Safran, wrote a 20-page document for the stunt team that details what he called a philosophy of action and how we're going to shoot it. For the flying stunts, he told them that he specifically wanted to mimic what it was like to shoot jet fighters. In fact, the director's inspiration was Top Gun Maverick rather than other superhero movies. He sought to film Corenswet's flying sequences as if the camera crew themselves were flying around him. The filmmaker, alongside his cinematographer, Henry Bram, decided to use different types of stabilized rigs, which are typically reserved for talking scenes. These rigs are also much smaller, usually called pico or nano, depending on their size. They give the audience the liveliness of handheld without making you feel like you're seasick. It also allows for very intimate close-ups with people and backing out because they're so small. Normally, flying scenes in movies are shot with the actor on wires in the air with the camera crew on the ground. Gunn opted to use a mix of practical effects and special visual effects. In the scene where we see robots taking care of Superman, the production team built some of those robots practically and used them as stand-ins and close-ups. In the specific scene we're talking about, they most likely were CGI'd based on the model. Gunn hired much of the visual effects team from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, including visual effects supervisor Stefan Soretti, who helped design some of the visual effects shots, with some of the unique creatures Weta, Framestore, and Industrial Light and Magic were also brought on board. "I've always given my VFX artist collaborators time to do their jobs properly, and the respect they deserve," says Gunn. That is why the film wrapped in mid-2024 and gave the team about a year to finalize all the special effects and touch-ups needed alongside the practical effects. Audition tapes for the three leads of the film began to be submitted by early May 2023. Gunn began watching them the same month while he was storyboarding the film. For the role of Superman, Gunn wanted an actor who possessed the character's humanity, kindness, and compassion, and was somebody whom the audience would want to give a hug. By the time he started watching audition tapes, he had watched the 2022 film Pearl, where Corenswet's performance stood out. Corenswet had previously expressed his desire to portray Superman, and his audition tape was one of the first that Gunn ended up reviewing. Other actors who were in consideration included Jacob Elordi, Tom Brittney, and Andrew Richardson, although it was confirmed that Elordi declined to read for the role. Nicholas Hoult, who was the runner-up to play Batman in the standalone DC film The Batman, was eyed for the role of Lex Luthor, but he chose to pursue the role of Superman instead. Gunn had actually considered A-list actors he had already worked with for Luthor, and rumors reported that Bradley Cooper was one of them. Siblings Alexander and Bill Skarsgård were also in the running. For Lois Lane, several actresses submitted audition tapes. Emma Mackey, Rachel Brosnahan, Samara Weaving, and Phoebe Dynevor tested for Lane. Brosnahan had made an audition tape with her husband, actor Jason Ralph, who read Superman's lines. In mid-June 2023, the finalists were flown in for screen tests at the Warner Brothers Studios lot with Gunn and Safran. The actors tested in makeup and costume as Kent and Lane in the following pairs: Hoult and Brosnahan, Brittney and Dynevor, and Corenswet and Mackey. The following week, the Superman contenders tested in costume against Mackey, but ultimately, Gunn and Safran chose Corenswet and Brosnahan as they felt that they had the best chemistry and charisma to bring the two characters to life. Fans also have noted that Corenswet looks like a hybrid of Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. Gunn then contacted Hoult about playing Luthor after the audition process, which he accepted after realizing he was more suited for that role. Emmy-nominated actor Anthony Carrigan plays Metamorpho in Gunn's Superman movie. The actor previously played in the DC Comics Playground with a role in Fox's Gotham TV series, but his transformation both physically and mentally to play Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, a metahuman with the power to transform his body into any element, was his greatest challenge. Carrigan spent approximately 5 to 6 hours a day in the makeup chair to become the metahuman. He says, "It's worth it because you can actually feel the texture of something. Your brain notices the difference." The makeup team glued prosthetics onto his face and body and then painted on details that made him come to life. He likes to joke that he was glued in, sewn in, and completely enveloped. And how did he cope with the preparation? He thanks his 2 older sisters who would sit him down when they were younger, put makeup on him, and transform him into their own baby doll. So sitting in the makeup chair, he felt a sense of calm and ease, reminded of those childhood memories and moments with his sisters. He does admit, though, that the final hour is just the hardest part, knowing you're almost done, but there's still more to be glued on. The actor speculates that the reason why Gunn called in Carrigan specifically for the role was because he seemed to understand on a human level this idea of feeling different and feeling like something that has happened to you feels like a curse. The actor has alopecia areata, which has resulted in his hair loss and given him the bald look that he has become known for. He has mentioned in interviews that this was an unspoken understanding between James and him. So when Carrigan got cast, he started asking the writer-director questions about Metamorpho and his intentions with him. There was a sense that Gunn wanted an actor who knew that Metamorpho was quite tortured by what was going on, to bring to life the real human quality of struggling with that internal torture, to make the villain seem real. At some point in the film, Lex Luthor forces Metamorpho to transform his body into kryptonite in order to keep the Man of Steel weak. You're in a situation where you're having to hurt someone, having to be an agent of the bad guy, and at the same time, there's this struggle to want to be good, Carrigan says. And that is exactly what made the actor want to play the role. This idea of having no choice and seeing the mental and emotional toll it takes on the character. Something similar to his Emmy-nominated role in the HBO series Barry. Principal photography began on February 29, 2025, which happens to be Superman's birthday in the comic books. Gunn had production film in the Advent Dalen Valley in Svalbard, Norway, for 1 week to shoot scenes that featured the iconic Fortress of Solitude. Gunn chose Svalbard because of its natural beauty, landscapes, and similarities to the Arctic, where the fortress is located in the comics. After on-location filming there, production moved to Trilith Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. The production also used Cleveland and Cincinnati in Ohio to make use of tax credits for on-location filming as well. Streets in Cleveland were dressed to represent Metropolis, like having police cars decorated in Metropolis decals as well as billboards and store signs. Filming locations in Cleveland included the Public Square, the Detroit Superior Bridge, the PNC Plaza, and the Cleveland Arcade. The exterior of the Leader Building served as the headquarters of the Daily Planet, while Key Tower was used as the headquarters for Stag Enterprises. So, why does all this matter? Because Superman is the foundation of the DC universe, and if you get him wrong, everything else collapses. But if you get him right, if you tell a story about hope, about kindness, about someone who could burn the world but chooses not to, you remind people why these stories matter in the first place. James Gunn's Superman is grounded and rooted in emotion and realism. It isn't just a reboot, it's a bet that goodness still works on screen. And he might be right. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to find out when the latest Collider videos drop.